So, let's start with the definition of an expert, which was the most relieving thing I've heard in years. The definition of an expert is somebody in a very complicated area that solves very complicated problems over and over and over again. Would you agree to that definition? Good. The 14-year-old from Waco, Texas, with 25 years experience on the internet is not an expert. I mean, everybody on the internet's got 25 years experience, right? And they all say this powerful stuff. This store is full of experts. And what's happening is we have crossed the 50% line. We've crossed the line where 50% of gear is bought online. Right? So you used to want to go and get a chorus pedal. So you used to go to a store like this and try all the chorus pedals and take one home. Now people go on the internet, look at all the reviews, buy one, and they don't like it, to send it back. My wife bought 5 dresses for a party from Nordstrom's, which is right down the street, tried them on in her bedroom, sent 4 of them back. That's normal. Oh my God. Okay, great with dresses, but don't do it with guitars, right? So we started selling guitars on the internet because McCarty's were consistent. If you bought a McCarty, the next one was the same. The next one was the same. We were the first people trusted on the internet, so in a way, we were a little bit responsible for this problem, right? But this is a destination store in which you walk in, they're going to know more about the pedals than the internet's going to know. They're going to know more about the guitars. They're going to have show me a wood library guitar. Just grab me a wood library guitar. He came to our factory and picked all the woods out for this guitar. You're not going to get that on the internet. So this was an ebony fretboard Floyd Rose Custom 24 that you picked all the woods out for this guitar. Is that right?
20 guitars
with a Carina neck.
Carina neck on the flame tops.
And a Carina back. Right?
Yep. And
there's nothing wrong. Who wants to play catch? So you can tell somebody loves a guitar because if they love it, they lose their noodles when you play catch. And the other people go, that's funny. So you can't, he has to fly to our factory to do this. You just don't internet this, right? Right. So to me, when I go back to the definition of an expert, if you're coming here to find out why that top has that curl like that, somebody in this store is going to really know an answer to that. And to get some of the answers on the internet are just, in some ways good, in some ways bad. My wife got really sick. And the first thing the doctor said was, please don't look on the internet, because everything's old and it's misinformation. And the cutting edge of medicine is not on the internet. It's the same thing with guitars. He knows what's going on presently with Gibson, with Fender, with Ibanez, with Gretsch, with Martin, with Taylor, with us, with everybody, because he's an expert in a complicated area. He can tell you what's going on. Same thing with the other people in the store. So I just want to start with that. I find that definition very relieving. Now, to that end, I was warned that I am no longer an expert. Yeah, right, sure. No, you're not an expert. I said, I'm telling you. He goes, no. He goes, one day you're going to be somewhere, and they're going to tell you, you're going to talk for a half an hour about the attributes of everything about it, and at the end, they're going to tell you that that's fine, I'll research it on the internet and I'll get back to you tomorrow. Yeah, sure, right, it's not going to happen. I swear to God, I'm in Seattle, I'm at the Guitar Center over here, and I have an Elam 251 for sale, which is a $15,000 mic with Aretha Franklin and Frank Sinatra sang it to. And this guy's got a studio in town, and he has never seen one of these things, and I'm talking to him for half an hour about all the things about the Elam 251, this old telephone mic. And I swear to God, he says to me, that's nice, $10 research on the internet. Oh, it's over. So, you got a store full of experts here, and you got a store full of very, very carefully hand-picked gear, whether it's strings or pedals or guitars or whatever, and you need to trust them. That's my first thing. Okay, is that fair? Ready to play catch? Here you go. Okay, good. People that handle guitars don't drop them. Right? All right. Has anybody seen these TED Talks I did?
Yeah.
Alright, so let's show of hands. Who's seen it? Okay, did you see the one about play your cards, or you see the thing about the perfect guitar? You saw both. Okay, so I didn't name it Making the Perfect Guitar. I wanted it to be called The Physics of Guitars, but once they put it up, I couldn't stop it, and it was all bad. Have you read the comments? Yeah. 40 comments of, oh my God, worst TED Talk ever. Oh my God, snake oil salesman. Oh my God, this guy's full of shit. He just admitted he doesn't know how to talk. It's awful. There's 394 positives and 40 negatives, and every negative comment is up. They call it keyboard courage at CNN. People in their underwear in their basement taking shots at you. At which point I said that to somebody, said, no, Paul, they're not wearing their underwear. So that TED Talk has been put up as one of the best TED Talks ever, and I got invited to speak on the same stage at Apple as Jobs used to from that TED Talk, and I said something about the comments and said, oh, just ignore them. That's just normal. So I'm going to do that TED Talk a little bit for everybody. Would that be good? Yeah. All right, so if you have two nylon string guitars, one is the Hauser that Segovia played, and the other one's a $100 piece of junk. And you put the same strings on both of them. And you have the same guy play them. Can you imagine one fills a concert hall and the other one, it just dies right at his feet, nothing projects? Can you imagine that? Oh, yeah. So same force, same energy. One of them turns the energy into sound beautifully, and the other one doesn't do it well at all. So if you put rubber tuning pegs on one and a rubber nut and a rubber bridge, you can imagine that one's going to sound like shit and the other one could have a chance. Could you imagine that? Okay. So the theory is that all guitars are not additive devices. If you put a better bridge on it, it's not that it added, it's that it subtracted less. It's all about subtraction. So in physics, you have these, remember the thing where you drop a ball and it hits and the other ball goes up the other way? Okay? Yeah. That's energy coming down transferred to energy going up. The second ball can never go higher than the first. All right? So the question I said in the TED Talk was, if this guy put any extra energy into a magic guitar? The answer is no. It's only how hard you hit it and how well it's transferred. If there was extra energy in a magic guitar that God put in, you would hit the string and a train would go by. All right, so that's not the way it works. So the best you can hope for is an energy of 7 in and 6.9 out. You can't put 7 in and get 7.2 out. It doesn't work that way. Okay? So the first thing is, if you put a rubber nut and a rubber bridge and a rubber tuning pegs on it, it'll sound better or worse? And the answer is it's going to sound worse, right? So it's the same thing all the way along. Almost all guitars in all stores are over 10% water. Do you really want to buy a guitar that's over 10% water? Really? I had a 1968 Telecaster neck in my office. I stripped the paint off it, and it came apart afterwards because when they built it, it was still wet, and the polyester had encased it like a swimming pool. So all these guitars, like Stevie Ray Vaughan and all these guys, the finish had worn off. They dried over and over and over and over and over again. So you want all the water out of the wood, you want all the resins to be crystallized, you don't want any plastic parts. So I'll show you an example of some differences, all right? So this is the nut, not on a Fender, but on a guitar with a very famous brand name. It's made out of the same material you hook your toilet to your septic tank with, PVC. This is a hollow nut out of a plastic box you've seen a million times, right? Here is a nut that is made of bone. And here's the stuff we use. Now, can you imagine that this would make the guitar not sound as good as that, or this would not sound as good as that? Can you hear the difference? Can you guys hear that at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's exaggerate it even more. This is a piece of plastic, and here's a piece of aluminum. One is transferring force into sound very poorly. The other one's transferring force into sound very well. Right? You're hitting the string and it's trying to turn it into a sound. On an acoustic guitar, you're hitting the string and it's basically got a speaker cabinet attached. So it turns out that in the end, you can figure out how good a guitar is with a stopwatch. If the string rings for 12 seconds, maybe not such a good guitar. Thing rings for 45 seconds, maybe a much better guitar. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
So when I was at Chicago Music Exchange, they said, all right, get guitars out, let's time them. I went, oh shit. So they pull out a 58 9 Les Paul, a 57 Strat, a brand new Les Paul, and one of our guitars. The 57 Strat was about 40 seconds. The PRS was 40 seconds. The old Les Paul was like 32 seconds, and the new Les Paul was like 15. And the new Fender was even worse. It was like 12. And it was like, and nobody thought the 57 Strat was going to be as good as all of them. But the truth is, the guitar, if you think about it, it's got all metal tuning pegs, it's got a bone nut, it's glued in well, all the woods in the neck are dry, the thing's bolted on well, the finish is hard as a rock, it's really thin, all the wood in the body has dried out really well, and the bridge is made of a hardened steel, and there's nothing to deaden the string. If you think about it, it makes real sense. Whereas an old Les Paul's got a nylon nut on it. If you put a bone nut on it, it would be a little bit better. I mean, it just, if you think about it, it makes some sense. So they interviewed Isaac Perlman on 60 Minutes, the great violinist. Why do you play a Stradivari? Why don't you play a new Cremona violin? He says, well, because when I play pianissimo, which is really quiet, with the Stradivari they can hear me in the back corner of the back thing with no microphone in the back of the hall. With the other violins, they can't hear me. In other words, this is a better device for turning sound, turning energy into sound. So when you're sitting down with a guitar and you're playing guitar, either it's giving the energy back to you that you're putting in, or it's sucking the energy away from you. And any guitar player has some sense of that. You could take somebody who's never played before and sit them down with a bad guitar and a good guitar, and they'll strum it, and they can tell. It's not hard. Problem is, we've started to give up on guitars. We go, oh, well, we'll just get a new pedal. That'll fix it. A new dog. So basically, if you're using the guitar as a synthesizer controller, and I've seen guys go to gigs where they have their guitar they don't care about, they're using a backline amp they don't care about, and their entire life is now this pedal board. Hendrix was a different ballgame. He had a guitar he loved, he had an amp he loved, and the pedals were to make things just go nuts in a good way. So to me, I don't want to give up on the guitar. I don't want to give up on it being an energy transfer device, and I don't want you guys to do that either. You should sit down with an expert, get a bunch of guitars. You should buy guitars the way women buy shoes. Bring me 40 pairs and get out of my way. Right? Right? That's, how many pairs of shoes do you have brought when you go buy shoes? 10?
Not usually that many ones, but I could do that.
You could do that. I'm telling you, that's the way to play. You play guitar?
Yes.
Okay, good. So if you buy a guitar, I'm telling you, go do that. And if we've done our job, you might like it. You might not. I don't really care if you buy a PRS, but I do care if you compare in this way, that it's either taking energy away from you or it's giving back. It sounds beautiful when you plug in the amp, or it doesn't. It feels good in your hands, or it doesn't. You have all these experiences that I think are so powerful and such a good judge. The problem is people don't trust their experiences when they're young guitar players. They trust their hero's experience. So I'm going to trust Neil Sean plays a whatever X, and I like the way he plays, so I'll buy one of those. You know, I like the way that this guy plays, and I like his sound, so I'll do that. Which is not a bad way to start. But in the end, you got to trust your own experience, right? So it's really, really important. So that's the subtractive talk that I did on the TED Talk, kind of brought down the size. And I'm telling you that if you make something out of something that rings, it's a lot better if it goes than this. So. Does that make any sense to everybody? So what I'm suggesting is you have this experience of how long does it ring? Does it sound musical to you in frequency response? Do you like the way it feels? You have all these senses. I mean, if it smells bad, you could probably fix that. But the rest of it you can't fix, right? And by the way, old guitars used to smell really cool, right? You know why? That was horse glue that they used to put the cases together, and that smell was when sending a horse to the glue factory. But that's a whole other. The other thing is that people say that these old guitars are worth so much money because how old the wood is. And I think it's a bunch of bullshit. I think those guitars were indicative of where they were going to be the day they were made. So the thing that drives me crazy is, have you ever heard the stories about why Stradivarius violins sound good? Have you ever heard all this thing? The reason Stradivarius violins sound good is because of the paint, or it's because of the uric acid, or it's because of this, or because of that. The most recent one is because of the fungus in wood, right? As if there was more fungus in his shop than the guy down the street. Nobody ever says the reason Stradivarius violins sound good is because the old man absolutely knew what he was doing better than everybody else. And that just pisses me off. At the time, he was considered an expert. He was the guy that was building violins for the royalty. At that time, the royalty would buy the instruments and then they would loan them to the pauper musicians. That's how it worked. Now, when royalty buys guitars, they go in collections and the pauper musicians aren't allowed anywhere near them. But truth is, we should do it that way again. The rich should buy the instruments and loan them. Now, that happens in the violin world. Very often, someone will have a Stradivari in their collection and will lend the instrument to some new prodigy. That happens a lot. But, you know, the guitar's the violin of our time, and you can't get a good violin for less than 35 grand, but oh my God, charge $3,500 for a guitar and somebody thinks you're raping. It's just not good. So, I don't know. To me, I just think that the reason these old guitars are really good, these really old Gibsons and these old Fenders and old Martins, is not because they're old, it's because somebody knew what they were doing. And I think that there's certain years that, I mean, people always put more money on a 59 Les Paul than they do on a 54 Les Paul. I mean, even though they're made by the same people at the same time, there were certain attributes that were worth more money. Same thing with Fenders in those years and this, that, and the other. My experience is that these old instruments, these old Martins and these old Stradivarius and D'Angelicos and this stuff, they were wonderful, powerful instruments. I got to play a Torres guitar, who was the father of the guitar. And literally, I played one note and I couldn't breathe. It sounded so beautiful. It was a little teeny guitar. It was really loud. It had all this bass. It should not have had what it had. But the old man knew what he was doing. So, look at it from a point of view of, my experience tells me that this is going to make me happier long-term than another. To that end, everybody that plays guitar in here is a drug addict, and everybody in here that doesn't play guitar is a drug addict supporter. So let me explain that to you. If you're sitting on a couch and you're holding the guitar you love, you're in no pain. And when you put it away, there's no hangover. That makes it sophisticated heroin. You're a drug dealer.
Yes, he is.
You are.
I got a deal for you.
I'm all ears. Go.
The pusher.
He makes me.
It's 550.
Tone options for days.
Yeah.
5 coils.
Yeah.
13 different.
You're selling a salesman. Be careful.
They're the easiest sell.
What's the easiest sell?
Salesman.
No, they're the hardest sell.
They want to make a deal.
I tried to sell you something today. You said no. So, let's do this wood library thing one more time. You have a lot of guitars here that you came to our factory and wood library, which means he went to a big rack of tops and he picked out a pile of tops. Then he went and picked out backs and picked out neck blanks and picked out stuff like this and laid this whole thing out and said, if you put this on it or that on it, where's that one quilt one that you showed me today that was so beautiful? Was it that red? There was one quilt one that you pulled a wood library one out today.
Oh, we had that
Yeah.
that single piece top. Where,
Right.
Oh, right there. Yep, there you go.
Right right, so this is he went and picked this top out, and it's a single piece top, and it's just beautifully,
Dry erase.
his idea is, I picked this wood out for you, and he hands you the guitar, he's dead. Because it's not a lie, it's true. He might not have been thinking of you, and maybe there's a little lie in the fact he said, I picked it out for you, but you as customer, it's true, right? Yes. So how many Wood Library guitars are in this building?
There's
10 or
probably a dozen.
Dozen. Oh, I'm sorry. Fair enough? All right, that said, I promised somebody here today that I would tell a Carlos Santana story. So who was that?
It was Spires. We want to hear it anyway.
Did I promise you?
I believe it was me. Por favor.
Gracias, amigo. All right, so this is the story as it goes. I had a dream that if I could make a guitar for Carlos Santana, that maybe I could have a shot at a career. Because at that time, he was the king of tone. And so I had gone and shown him a guitar at Meriwether Post Pavilion, I mean at the time the Capitol Center once, and he made me play with him. He literally made me, he goes, you play? I backed up against the wall. He says, you play. He kept looking at the guitar and playing. He goes, you play, let's play. Oh, it was a disaster. And I was so scared. He goes, it's okay, son. And he put his arm around me, and he walked me up on the stage, and we stood behind Al Di Meola's amps and danced the Return to Forever, who was opening up for him. It was a fantastic night. I sold a guitar to Al Di Meola that night, not to Carlos Santana. That's okay. So later, about 2 or 3 years later, I had brought a guitar to Meriwether Post Pavilion, which is where they had recorded Miles of Isles and a bunch of other great records. And Carlos Santana was, his band Santana was playing, and I had the guitar and I gave it to the roadie and I said, can you show it to Carlos? He goes, you can't go back there. And I said, well, fine, you take it with you. He says, well, you're afraid I'm going to steal it? I went, no. I mean, my whole career is based on this moment. I think people should if he did this right. It's fine. And his name was John Gabrielli. He turned out to be a really good guy long term, but I had just met him. And he disappears into the backstage. And I'm standing there walking around. I'm just waiting, not thinking much of it. And a guy comes out. He comes out of the back room and he goes like this. I walk back and there is a picture of Jesus. And there's all these amps, and there's incense, and there's Carlos Santana playing the guitar. All the notes are feeding back, and he's playing through a little teeny modified pig nose. Pig noses don't feed back. Pig nose is a little battery-operated thing you plug in the wall. And it was, he loved the guitar. He loved it. So somebody grabs me, says, time for you to leave. Carlos has to meditate. Carlos says, no, we're not going to do that today. And he looked through the big scrapbook that I had, and he saw this guitar with a curly maple top, and he said, I want that guitar, and I want this, and I want that. And he wrote his home address and phone number on a card, and he gave it to me. He says, but I have to play the guitar tonight and see if I like it. So I'm standing on the side of the stage, and at that time, he was driving this band with an iron fist. Singers in the back, huffing cigarettes as fast as he can, trying to get ready because he's got to go back out and sing. And these guys are really focused on doing a great job. And about 4 songs in, Carlos waves to the roadie. Roadie brings the guitar, he puts it on, goes out, the tune starts, he plays 4 notes, he waves it off, takes the guitar off, puts on his old guitar, and the rest of the concert happens. And I don't know what happened. I'm standing there, a little sick to my stomach, you know, it's not the best feeling in the world. But I wait to see. He goes, after the show, he's standing there, he goes, deal's off. Guitar didn't sound good through my rig. And I went, it was the pickups, those are P90s, you need humbuckers. He goes, no, deal's up. I said, Carlos, I swear to God, let me just send you some pickups, and if you like them, deal's back on. He goes, no, the deal is off. And I went, please, let me send you the pickups, and we'll just leave it at that. He goes, now he knows I got his phone number and his address in my pocket, right? And he has the grace to not ask for it back and goes, okay, send the pickups. So I get home and I call Howard Lease and I said, Howard, can I borrow your curly maple top guitar with the tremolo for Carlos Santana to use? I'm not sending pickups, I'm sending a guitar, right? And he says, sure. Carlos is a great player, it would be wonderful to have it. I'll send it down, it's in a flight case, give me the address of the studio, I send it, I'm going on vacation. Now this is before cell phones, okay? So he goes on vacation and the guitar shows up in a flight case with a lock on it with 4 numbers for the combination. And they can't get it open. And they're mad. And I get a phone call, what's the combination? I have no idea. I call Howard, I can't get him, nobody's available, there's no cell phones, nothing. Oh God, this is bad. And John Gabrielli swears to God to this day that that night in a dream the combination came to him. And he gets up the next day, and he goes in and he does it, and he pops. Carlos pulls the guitar out and uses it for all the solos on the Z-Bop record. It opened the day he started the solos section. Hey, Papa Ray, all those tunes. And I get a phone call. Well, you're not getting the guitar back. We're not paying for it, and don't call us again. I said, that's Howard Lease's guitar. He goes, no, this is over. I said, let me make another one. You can borrow the guitar. Let me call Howard, make sure it's okay. You can borrow the guitar, I'll make another one. No. I call Howard up, can you borrow the guitar? Of course you can borrow the guitar, he's a great player. Hang up, didn't tell him what happened. Call him back, say, you can borrow the guitar. Well, Carlos wants one, he wants it with a bass pickup too. This one only had a treble pickup. By the way, why does it sound good? Because of the capacitor across the volume control one? No, that's not the reason. They had opened up the back to see there was some preamp in it. They couldn't figure out why it sounded so good. Turns out that Seymour Duncan had made me one of the very first Duncan customs to put in it, and he loved the way it sounded in an acoustic tone. Look, no matter what mic you put on Barbara Streisand, she's not going to sound like Paul Rogers. This guitar sounded good and the pickup sounded good. So I go to work making the guitar, and I finish the guitar, and it's done. It's the one that's so famous. And I play it through my little Magnatone amp, and every note feeds back. And I realize I got a magic guitar, and I put it in a Les Paul flight case, because there's no such thing as a PRS flight case, right? As an anvil case, and I put it in the case, and Federal Express had just started. And I sent it Federal Express, and I wait for the phone to ring. The phone don't ring. First day, phone don't ring. The second day, phone don't ring. The third day. So I call up, what happened? He goes, I'm not sure. But he's willing to give the first one back. Carlos gets on the phone, he says, it's an accident of God. I said, what do you mean? He says, accident of God, it'll never happen again. But I need a spare. So he ordered another one. And I gave the guitar back to Howard, and I finished it the day he showed up at Constitution Hall. And this happened a lot, where the artist would show up on the day that something happened. It was very synchronicity, something, I don't know what the right word. And Carlos walks out on the stage, and I show him the guitar to the roadies and the whole thing. And he comes out, and he greets everybody, he says hello, the whole thing. And he puts the guitar on, and he goes, and he turns around, and he says, my guitar's got no high end. Carlos had asked for a tone control on this next one. He said, my guitar's got no high end. And he says, turn the tone control up. Carl says, my guitar doesn't have a tone control. Turn the high end up. He says, turn the tone control up. Carlos turns around, he goes, my guitar doesn't have a tone control. And he goes, he had no idea it was a different guitar. Had none. It felt exactly the same. He goes, where's Paul? And I'm behind him. Played the guitar all night long. It sounded magic. Told me it was an accident of God, but not as strong. And I made him a third one, and then we made him a double neck. And he calls me and he goes, okay, you're a guitar maker. Now imagine you were a songwriter. The first song you wouldn't trust it was a hit, that the next one would be a hit. And the next one you wouldn't trust was a hit. You would, but by the fourth or fifth one, maybe you got, Bernie Taupin on your hands or something. I don't know. He had decided, okay, you're a guitar maker. And what the moral of the story is, he made me earn his respect. He did not give it to me. That's the cool part, right? And I really honor that, because he was investigating something new for him as a tool to use. and gave me his name as an endorser, was paying me good money for the guitars, wasn't asking for anything free, you know. I was getting checks that I was Xeroxing before I cashed them because I thought it was cool. Is that yours or mine?
I think that one's yours.
Cooties.
That's
He's
an
got
old,
cooties.
cooties is an old term.
Yeah.
So, Carlos Santana is an extraordinary musician. He knows how to play to the last guy, the last woman in the last corner, going to the bathroom, and as they're going in, they're still singing the melodies. I mean, the guy's extraordinary in concert. And the fact that he's playing on our guitars and has lent the name to the guitars did give you the chance. So, Carlos Santana is a remarkably powerful musician. That people go and dance, and all ages are touched by it, and you can bring your kid, and you can bring your grandmother, and everybody's happy, and the whole place is dancing, and they go home and they felt like they ate a dinner that they couldn't buy at the grocery store. It's powerful stuff this guy's involved in. And he just keeps not going away musically. He just keeps studying and bringing new music and doing new things, and it's very, very cool. So that's the story. I've told a lot of soapbox stories. Does anybody have a question?
What year PRS should I be buying?
Huh?
So what year of PRS?
What year?
should I be collecting?
Well,
I'm going back to a couple of stories past.
I think we're peaking right now. I don't think we're peaking in the past. And hang on a second. I think that literally, and what? I think we're making the best guitars we ever have.
You keep on adding less subtraction.
Okay, so the finishes are thinner, the finishes are harder, the pickups sound better, the bridges. Where's Jim? Am I a pain in the ass about what bridges are made out of?
Yes.
Yes. The nut material is better, the tuning pegs are better. There's not a guitar on this wall that I wouldn't shoot out with any other guitar of any other brand right here on the spot. I mean, we do this all the time. We'll pick somebody in the audience that doesn't play guitar, have them pick out two guitars, one of ours and one of the others, and listen to the difference in the amp. It's astounding. So, no, I think that this is our moment. I was in diapers in 1958. I wasn't invited to that party. Thank you. But this is, okay, good. But this is our party. Pick one up and compare it. Take the black one and the green one and try them against each other. Do whatever you take. Bring your own guitars. Bring your favorite friend's guitar. Compare it. I mean, if we've done our job, it will not only do better, but it'll do way better. If we haven't done our job, walk out and tell James that I'm a snake oil salesman. It's a bunch of bullshit. Fair enough?
So related to that, Paul, are there no sacrifice plumb lines that you stick to that as you innovate the company, as you innovate the guitars, these are my three things that I'll never change, that I always stick to, or is everything on the table as far as what can be changed? And that's always stuck, like a 1996 PRS still. And
If you send a 1996 PRS back to our PTC, we can bring it completely up to today's specs and make it every bit as good. Our acceptance in the PRS Tech Center is almost 100%. So it's the bits, the pickups and the bridges and the nuts and that kind of stuff that we're able to improve. I don't think that we are growing better sounding curly maple now than we were, right? Yeah, it's all up for grabs. But I can tell you that jack plate that on the side of the guitar hasn't changed since the day we made it, and the screws we use haven't changed because there's nothing wrong with it. I don't want to change things just to change them. We change things because we want to make it better. That knob we've changed 3 times, and finally it's completely comfortable, doesn't feel sharp in any way. It's not too big around, not too small. We finally got it in a good spot. And now I don't want that mold ever changed again. But it took 3 shots of doing that to get it right. We've been changing the humbuckings around for a really long time. The new 5815s and 8515s are getting 100% acceptance. It used to be that we would get 30 or 20% acceptance. And then when it came to 5708s, it was more like, what, 85% acceptance, and now we're getting more like 100% acceptance. You can tell from the market feedback about how we're doing. So I don't think there's anything that's not on the table. We're working with some new artists now that are trying to not just make a guitar have one voice with a different amounts of bass and treble depending on what pickups on. They want 3 different voices out of the guitar. It's kind of remarkable. I'm being taught by artists right now new ways to make guitars I never imagined. We came out with a Vela, which Jim Collin, behind you, pushed really hard, and he wanted the bass pickup to have less turns on it than I could tolerate. But you know something, I plugged it in and I liked it, so I shut up. If somebody brings something to me that I really think is usable, who cares, right? The Vela works across the board, it just does. Kev picked one up, that's his new guitar. He's a Strat guy, right? So I think anything's on the table. I can tell you what's off the table. Putting the frets in the wrong place, never. Putting the nut in the wrong place, never. Making the guitar so it won't intonate, never. Having the finish too thick, never. Having the fretboard curvature not work. Having the frets be unlevel. Having the nut action be wrong. Not enough angle on the headstock so the strings vibrate in the nut. All that stuff's not cool. Not having a good taper in the pot's bad yams. How many guitars do people own where you turn a knob and it jumps on? That's not acceptable. So when the guitar doesn't work for an artist or for a customer, that's not cool. His deal is you take one of these guitars in a box that he's never opened, put it in the trunk, and you should be able to get through a recording session or a gig with no adjustment. That is our deal. That's off the table. We're going to start shipping guitars that the repairman has to work on for a day before it's good enough to use. That's not cool. And there are other companies in this world that's the deal. So some of the stuff guitar making wise, no, I won't touch. In terms of the different attributes and whatnot, you come up with a better body shape than we've drawn, I'll probably try to make it. I wish I had thought of the Flying V and the Explorer shape. I wish I had drawn the SG, but I didn't. By the way, a Les Paul shape, what do you think that comes from?
From a Vina in India. I'm going to say female model.
It's close. It's an acoustic guitar made smaller with a cutaway. Like an OM guitar. Think about it. It's just an acoustic guitar shape. Yeah. Pretty cool. All right, so I answered both those questions, right? I can't stand the president when he doesn't answer questions. Does somebody else have a question? Because you guys are going to ask it. Yes. Yes.
Even though you love it, do you ever drive yourself crazy about trying to improve your products?
No. What pisses me off is when we know there's something wrong and we don't fix it fast enough. All right, so we do something on Friday mornings that's remarkable. On Friday morning at 8:30 a.m., all the managers get in a room and we open up 6 cases out of shipping and do what you do. And that was not a fun meeting for a couple of years. Now it's gotten pretty relaxed because we've gotten to the point where I'll take any of these guitars off the wall that we made and compare it to anything else, and I know that our quality control is good enough that guitar is not buzzing out, the frets are level, the thing's going to make a sound, it's going to make a good sound. I can't tell you how many guitars I picked up from other manufacturers that just didn't work. I mean, it's like a toaster that burns it on one side and doesn't do on the other, or flips out of the toaster when you buy it. I mean, that's because the guy that runs the company doesn't give a shit about his toasters, in my opinion. No, I don't drive myself. I sleep well. I don't sleep well when something bad in my family happens. That's different. No, I'm sleeping well.
That's good.
That's good. Somebody else, you got a question? You've been here since I got here.
I wasn't sure what questions I wanted to ask you yet, but
You got a whole list, you pick one, and that's it. What?
I've been taking notes. But there was something you said about measuring guitars against each other by timing the sustain on each of them.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
That's a new concept.
Okay.
Seriously, it's a new concept. I never heard anybody say it before, but when you talk about subtractive, that makes a lot of sense, right?
Right.
How subtractive is the guitar being to the string that's trying to vibrate?
Right.
Go on. Still haven't asked the question yet.
Right, that was my question.
I got that part.
Is there anything else in particular you use to measure guitars against each other besides
Yeah,
the
history.
sustain?
Yes, absolutely. Measure them against 58, 59 Les Pauls, measure them against 54 Telecasters, measure them against 54, 57, and 63 Strats, measure them against 1945 OMs, 1947 OMs, measure them against the archtops against the best Angelico. We have a prototype of an instrument that we have compared to the best one ever made, and we are really happy. So we do compare against time and history. So can you imagine that the instrument that Pat Metheny plays all the time might be an extraordinary musical instrument? We'll go compare against those instruments. And don't think for 1 second we're not in competition with just our competitors. We're in competition with my dead teachers. If you've got Ted McCarty guitars or old Leo Fender guitars or Fred Gretsch guitars or whatever, those artists have those guitars in their arsenal. And I'm not in competition with just being made now. I'm in competition with stuff that's been made through history. So history is a big deal. I mean, you think David Grissom's going to play anything he wants. Carlos Santana doesn't give a shit how much the guitar costs. He only cares what it sounds like to his rig. And don't think in secret, he's not pulling all that old stuff out to check against all the time. History's a big deal here. Instrument making, I didn't come up with that. These concepts have been with instrument makers forever. I mean, in Africa, they were communicating with drums over, decades of miles. That would be turning force into sound. Somebody knew what the hell they were doing. Instrument makers have known this concept for a really, really, really long time. And so I compare it to the history of instruments. And I get a little bit, look, if I learn something from an old instrument, I got to be really careful because then somebody's going to go, well, he likes those guitars better than he likes his own. But no, I'm a student of the history of guitar, and you would expect me to be the student of the history of guitar. Otherwise, why the hell would you buy one of our guitars if we couldn't look in the rearview mirror and understand how to go forward? When you're driving, you're looking forward as much as you're looking backwards if you're doing a good job. I got slammed from behind once because I wasn't looking in the rearview mirror. I'm constantly checking the rearview mirror. But it's the same thing with guitar making. I got my hands on 2 Stradivari violins. Fascinating experience. They both sounded completely different, but they both had the same quality in them. The harder I plucked them, the louder they got. No matter how, if I hit it even harder, it got even louder. And then I turned them around, and the backs of the instruments were made from the same tree. And the reason I knew that is because it looked very similar to this. I was moving it and moving it and moving it, and then it lined up. And I could see that it was from the same tree. So I said to the curator of the Smithsonian, I said, look, they're made from the same tree. He goes, no, they're not. And I said, yeah, they are. He goes, no, they're not. And I took the violins and I put them, I started to slide until they were in the same position. He goes, look, they're that same tree. He goes, oh, shit. I mean, his jaw drops. And it's Jim Weaver. He goes, oh, my God, they're made from the same tree, which was new information. But you got to think Stradivari had a shop. He had no amplifier. He was making an instrument, and this little box was his amplifier. And he had to make that thing as loud as he possibly could make it. He bought trees just like we do. Fascinating experience. I took 2 of the best violin makers in Cremona to my wood guy at the Frankfurt trade show. And I said to these guys, this is the best wood in the world. Don't buy it for the note that you hear. Buy it for how long it rings. So they were picking it up. How long did it ring? Okay? They picked out, I swear to God, like 40 backs of violins and laid them all out. We'll take these. And it was, and there was probably 200 backs, 300 backs in this booth at the show. And the guy who was selling the wood's jaw drops. And we said, what's wrong? He said, look, They're all from the same tree. They had a number like 487 on the corner of every single one. They had picked out all the wood from the same tree and left all the other stuff by how long it rang. This guy did the same thing. Stradivari did the same thing. So to me, this instrument making thing is not a new concept. It's just we've kind of lost our view of it. If you were a violinist, you would pick out an instrument that converted your bow motion to sound as well as it possibly could be, and you would have no pedal board. Right? No booster pedal, no chorus pedal. That's why I like acoustic guitar players. They have no pedal board, they're just playing. Except now, guys are using pedal boards on acoustic guitars.
That's my next question.
Yeah.
Talk a bit about acoustics.
It's the same exact deal. Is there a PRS Highline private stock acoustic here?
No.
Okay, so in the TED Talk, there's a demonstration. You guys seen the demonstration of me hitting the note? That acoustic guitar is sustaining better than most electric guitars do. So it applies. What I'm saying about acoustic guitars and electric guitars, dead even. Basses, all of it. It's all the same.
What kind of bracing you use on the tops?
We use a combination of an X brace so the top doesn't pull up, and fan braces like on an old nylon string. We do not use Martin bracing at all. So does that answer that question? Did I answer your question? No more for you. Okay, so. yeah.
The wood, is it becoming harder to find really great wood?
No. The forests in this country are in better condition now than they were 100 years ago. And the thing that's interesting is the curly maple. I think the University of Washington planted a whole bunch of curly maple seeds from curly maple trees. Not one tree grew curly. They think what happens, the loggers think what happens is that you've got the canopy in the forest and you've got baby tree trying to grow starve for light because the canopy's covered. And it's starve for light and starve for light. When daddy tree falls over and the canopy opens up, that grows really fast. Those are the ones they think go curly. Curly only comes from wild growth. It does not come from replant. So, and the thing, you have this wood around here, which is big leaf maple. Yeah, and it grows quilted on one side. So when you get one of those one-piece quilt tops, the other side of the tree is firewood. And the guys hate cutting quilt because they can't get enough money for it. Very, very difficult. To my ears, all three of the curly maples are very good sounding. I got no problem with it. What was fascinating is, remember I was talking to you about these violin makers from Pomona? We sent them an Adirondack spruce, a red spruce top for the violins that I wanted them to make. They said it was the best plate they'd ever heard. They never tried an American spruce top for a violin. Because the old masters only used European, they never did it. They were stunned how good an Adirondack spruce top is going to sound for a violin. So we're in a process of, I sent them the wood, they're cutting it, I'm going to dry it, we're going to go back and forth to see if we can make a good sounding instrument. I think Stradivari would have gone nuts if he had a seam tiger's eye. I think he would have loved all these blue colors. But because he didn't do it, they're not going to do it. But I'm not so caught up in time that way. In terms of rosewoods and mahoganies and all that, most of all the millwork for expensive mahogany doors on new houses has stopped. So the only thing the mahogany is getting used for pretty much is the instrument business, which is about 1/20th of what that high-end architectural millwork used to be. So things are okay right now. We do not buy woods unless we think it's sustainable. In other words, it's growing faster than it's getting used up. Did that answer your question?
Perfectly. Hey, Les Paul was on the record for saying the neck was the most important part of the guitar. What do you think this slant is on that, or was? Have you heard him say that, or you have read that?
I have to be very careful. I like Les Paul a lot. He was really good to me my whole career when he was alive. I would call, want to chat. He was a guitar player, was an instrument maker. I have made curly maple necked McCartys that sound unbelievable. When we made the instrument for the Metropolitan Museum of Art, now if you walk in the Smithsonian, the first thing you see when you walk in the American History Museum is a PRS. Now there's a PRS in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. That guitar had a curly maple neck and an ebony fretboard and a curly maple top. And Ricky Skaggs was standing there and said, Paul, I'm going to tell you that that's what they made mandolins out of, and you should be listening. So, no, I don't think it's the most important thing. I think the most important thing is how dry is it, how much resin's crystallized in the wood, and how long does it ring. So I'm starting to find out that wood species is not as important as those other factors. To that end, there's a lot of 2x4s in Home Depot that are made out of red spruce. You can make one hell of a guitar in Home Depot. I'm serious, you could. You'd be gluing a lot of 2x4s together and cutting them up, but I mean, who cares? He said that somehow from his experience. So, I'll give you an example. He would have the same guitar made with a maple neck and with mahogany neck. And he experienced mahogany neck as a better sounding guitar. Okay? He also used ebony fretboards. He wasn't a rosewood fretboard guy. So, would that have changed if you had to put rosewood fretboard on it? I mean, I don't really know. I wasn't involved in the making of those instruments. Although he did make some instruments, he was more of a guitar player and an artist than he was a guitar maker. If he was here, he would tell you what that experience came from and why he said that. I don't know. I'm suspecting that he had identical instruments made, one with maple neck and one with mahogany neck, and he liked the mahogany neck ones better, but I don't really know. We're getting really good results with other woods right now. I'm stunned. In a way, curly maple necks don't ring that long, but for some reason when you make instruments out of them, they sound wonderful. So, I'm going to change his statement. The wood you make the neck out of is extraordinarily important. The species of wood would be in that garden. Okay, is that fair? Dangerous comment. I have a Pernambuco necked guitar that I love. My guitar is here. It has a mahogany neck and a mahogany body. This thing here, this thing rings like crazy. Why don't you sit down and strum it with a pick and tell me if you like the way it feels and plays. Thanks, see you. He tries to walk out. All right, so does anybody else have a question? I'll get rid of him with my guitar, okay.
Yeah, so that guitar right there.
That's the prototype of the Paul's guitar, which is the worst name for a guitar in history.
But that's PRS and PRS, that's your #1 main axe?
That's, well, I have 3 guitars. I'll tell you the story, okay? That guitar I brought home, and I bring these beautiful guitars home and show my wife all the time. Her name is Paige. And I brought that one home, and she goes, oh, I'll have this one. I went, because this one I loved. And she didn't know. And within 10 seconds, I said, okay, you can have it, no problem. And I had to go through the entire thing in my head. But every time I was going to leave for a gig, I had to borrow my wife's guitar out. It just didn't go real well for me, right? But I got over it. And she owns that guitar. I have another one that I use a little bit more that has a Pernambuco neck on it, made out of scrap parts. I like making guitars out of scrap parts that we can't use for the regular guitars. If it has a crack in it, I'll fill it with super glue and use it as my own guitar. And then the third one is the guitar that John McLaughlin played at the most recent PRS event, and I lent him my guitar. So I have a blue one and 2 yellow ones. That's one of the yellow ones. I bring that one with me everywhere I go. I love that guitar.
That's the one you play on the couch?
Yeah, one of the 3 I play.
All right.
Well, I don't collect guitars. I have 3 electric guitars.
Okay.
And if your name, one time Al Di Meola was at our open house and he asked me for my guitar, and I said, of course you can have it. And he took it, and I took a shot at him. I said, there's a better one in the truck. But I gave him the guitar. He used it for the whole Return to Forever tour. I can make another one. They can't. So I made a mistake once. The Edge asked me for my guitar, and I didn't give it to him. I made him another one. Huge mistake. I could have made another one. The fact that it was Dragon 1, Proto 1, well, you know, that might have had some impact on it. But I should have given him the guitar. I could have made another one. And I've now, very often, these guitars, if a rock star falls in love with that guitar, I'll give it to him. I mean, let me tell you, if John Mayer asked me for that guitar, it's out of here. my wife will have to get another one. So how's that thing surviving back there?
Always going.
So actually, I want to report. So does it ring?
It rings.
Are you bored or you really like it?
Look at that smile. Look at that smile.
I heard some interview from Page, not Jimmy Page, and he actually mentioned Stradivarius violins when he thinks of his first Les Paul because of the nature of the ring of that particular instrument. It's number one, I guess.
Well, I played that guitar
Did you?
that he's talking about, and someone had carved the neck away with a spoke shave in the middle, and someone had taken the pickups out and put late 60s pickups in it. But that was the guitar that recorded all those Led Zeppelin records, and I just need to shut up. I'm sorry, he wins.
Anyway, thanks.
You're welcome. So look, this thing, in my experience, it was very even sound and rang for a long time. Did you get experience?
Oh,
of
yeah,
that?
yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
It's pretty bored for such a guitarist. That's all right. So does anybody else have a question? Yeah.
How often do you run up against the difference between like your subjective desires for a guitar and the subjective desires of, you know, us jackasses? Like, my perception, like, what I want from a Paul Reed Smith is
That's an
probably,
honest question right there.
because what I want from a Paul Reed Smith is probably very different from what you want from a Paul Reed
Where's
Smith.
Jim?
Right here.
But we both
So
love that.
the
So
answer
there's-
to his question is every day, right?
Yeah.
Every day.
Right.
Every day, I don't think of you guys as jackasses. I think of you guys as highly interested in what's going on in our industry, in an industry that's losing its footing, okay? I really like that you guys are here, so I don't think of you that way. If you want me to think of you that way in the future, I'll have to, that'll be hard for me to do, but I'm not gonna do it.
It's a Seattle term of endearment.
Jackass?
Yeah, it's an East Coast, West Coast thing, you might not
It's a
understand.
self-deprecation thing.
Yeah.
It's not commentary.
It's not you, it's us.
When he was excited, it's a Seattle thing.
I love
We spend a lot of
your
time in the
guitar.
green.
Okay, fair,
You know,
all right,
I hear you
I
talk
won't
about
get
like
into
being
the
a Telecaster
colloquial.
and a 15 on Les Paul,
Fair enough.
and, you know.
When he does a run of Floyd Rose guitars, he decided to put Carina necks on them, which is a lighter weight wood than I would have put on the guitars. But I'm sorry, when I played the guitars, they were ringing like crazy. I need to shut up. I mean, he's an expert. That's how I started this whole thing, and I think he made really good decisions. I don't play a Vela, but I heard somebody play one the other day, and he had about 40 pedals, and there was still all this beautiful high end coming out of the pedal board. It had enough high end to get through the pedal board. It was at Toman. It sounded absolutely gorgeous, and I went, "Oh my God, a Vela is a wonderful pedal board guitar." I backed up because I plugged straight in, and I can use that kind of high end. I'll give you another example. The very first person to play a Starla was the woman who plays in Prince's band. And she plays with more high end and more gain and more aggression than just about any, Donna Gratis.
Yeah.
And I can't play with that kind of high end, but somehow she made it okay. She wanted something different out of the guitar than I wanted out of the guitar, so that's okay with me. I don't have a problem with that. It's my job to keep it somehow in bounds. And I think the playing field's pretty wide. But when it goes out of bounds, I'm supposed to say, Jim and I had a discussion about this. Have you already released a new McCartney?
Yeah.
Okay, we released a new McCartney. I don't want to tell you that before it's been released. It's been released, right? And there's one little teeny detail on it we were going at today. And I want to make sure that it's not out of bounds in any way, which it's not. But I want to make sure that in 40 years, there's not one thing about that guitar that anybody wants to change. All right, so to me, that's important to keep it in bounds. But I like the playing field being wide. It's okay with me. So the answer is yes, every single day I have a disagreement with it, but not to the point where I want to change it, to the point where I want to make sure it's still in bounds. Look, take an old Stratocaster. Bass pickup sounds good. Middle pickup sounds good. They figured out in what year they put a 5-way switch on it?
77.
77, and the old guys were taking files and making them so it worked, okay? The treble pickup's a piece of junk. It doesn't work. You gotta put more turns on it. It's just, if you watch Hendrix, he's not doing anything but bass and middle pickup. So, that's okay. It needed to be adjusted, so that's fine. I just want to make sure that if we were making Strats, I want it all in bounds. I want the tremolo to stay in tune, I want it to be a usable guitar. That's all, it's not complicated, but if it's not in bounds, if somehow it doesn't work, I mean, it's not okay. I mean, we're at that meeting in the morning on Fridays, most of it's okay, but a couple times I said, this doesn't work, and we fixed it just like that.
And Mondays with SE.
No, that's on Fridays.
We do the SE one.
Oh, that's just brand new. Sorry, I answered the
Yeah,
question.
he's there.
Yeah, very good.
I've owned a bunch of your guitars.
That's
And,
good. Are you happy as I am, or?
Actually, I'm not.
Okay.
And actually, I've managed a bunch of artists that are on your roster.
Yeah, okay, good.
And James and I go back to the very beginning of his time at the guitar store. My biggest challenge with Paulie Smith, and the reason I'm here is because I love what it is you guys do. But in my mind, the 91 CE24 or the 88 to 91, an incredible instrument, 2011 SC 245, unbelievable instrument. The SC58, sorry, I got that wrong. SC58 from 2011, I apologize, with the 5708 pickups.
That's right.
The best guitar you ever made of all time. And that will be the most collectible PRS in my mind. So I'm not trying to hoard those. Just,
Go on.
Okay. As somebody,
So far, I like those instruments too.
So,
you know why we
what-
quit making them? They quit buying them.
and that's part of my question. Part of it is the construct of the guitar industry being with Guitar Center and Sam Ash and, where James can buy the right things because he knows his audience and they can actually get into the hand of someone who appreciate it. My question is the competition is yourself. I don't compare you to Fender or Gibson or anybody. I actually compare what you do to yourself. So when I play something, I ask, is it as good as this hollow body McCarty that I played at a store in the way back when? Is it as good as a metallic 87 24 fret whatever with the HFS pickups? You're like your own worst enemy. You created such great pieces of work that everything that I benchmark it against, I want to find the guitar that's like, oh, it's the new version of how great that was.
You are bringing up the big white elephant in the room. So let me explain. We were going along making single cut 58 single cuts, and people quit buying them. They were like, "We bought those. What else you got new?" I mean, it's like, "What have you done for me lately?" I mean, it's really bad. I'll give you the hollow body example. We made hollow bodies with piezos. If you only made a single cut hollow body, then we did that. If you only made a 24 fret, and then we did that. If you only made one with a tremolo, then we did that. I mean, it just went on and on and on and on and on. And literally to the point where people start to give up on the hollow bodies where, well, we already bought one of those. You got something new, you got something new, you got something new. And I don't want to change. I want to do what you do, which is, well, we're making single cut 58s and let's just keep selling.
I'm trying to buy
But the
all
reason he
5708
just,
pickups because you don't sell them, and I'm trying to buy them on eBay or however because I think you have the mojo in those pickups. If anybody really knew what they were listening to.
there are a lot of them in this room. You can buy the guitar, strip the pickups out and resell them.
Everything is.
We'll make a bulk deal.
Well, I'm the kind of guy who could do that.
So 5909s and 5708s are very close.
But I played the narrow fields. There's some you got Jesus on the telephone on that early from late 2011 to early 2012. Bernie Marsden and Davey Knowles and all the guys you brought out to play that, who all have the right ears and the right ability to play, nailed it, and they all went, "Holy Lord,
crap, yeah.
you really got it." It's like you built what Henry's been trying to do for 50 years without a brass nut. Or not
Very
50 years,
sweet
20
what you're
years.
saying, but you also have to incorporate in there that the dealers quit buying. And if I didn't change, I wasn't going to survive. Now, the 15 pickups that are in some of these new guitars that we're making have 100% artist acceptance. Bernie Marsden's using those now. David Grissom still is in love with the DGTs, but everybody bought DGTs, so they're kind of hard to sell now. Although it was on the cover of Guitarist magazine in England as the best PRS ever. So I don't. This "what have you done for me lately" thing is, huh?
Music Messa named that your SC58
Yeah.
like the best guitar they've ever played in their life.
Couldn't sell them. So, look, you want to come on and be on the marketing team? It's
I
fascinating.
haven't bought enough. I should
Okay.
get it. Sorry.
What is that?
5708s.
Yeah.
Same as the SC58.
They're 5708s all over this
Yeah,
place.
no, and I'm going to look at that as soon as you guys are. I don't want to interrupt your thing.
No, you're not interrupting anything. It's this. The problem is the market's getting bored just like that. Now let's go back to the 50s for a second. Les Paul 52 didn't have binding. 53 had binding, trapeze tailpiece. Late 53, 54, they put the stop tailpiece on. 55, the same. 56, they had the two-pneumatic bridge on it. 57, they started to put humbucking pickups on it. By late 58, it had a sunburst top. 59, in 1960, they made it a wide, thin neck. All the artists told them the guitars weighed too much, and in 1961, it was a Les Paul SG. Then they fired Les Paul, and that became the SG. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on, and by 63, they lost it. All right, you're talking about the same kind of history, but we haven't lost it. So, same thing, I mean, Fender's more consistent in a way, but until Hendrix picked the Strat up, they were out of business. You couldn't get a Stratocaster away. They were selling Jazzmasters and Jaguars and Mustangs, remember that? So, this thing about people getting bored real fast, I mean, the one scary part for me,
Look at the pedal case.
Yeah.
You know, the pedals are the,
that's what I was going to bring up.
yeah.
The pedal's hot this week, he buys, and you guys quit buying them. Oh my God.
So, yeah, we'll sell 50 of one pedal in a week, and then we won't sell any of that pedal for 6 months.
And he stocked them. There's a pedal in here called a Submarine, which is a gated super fuzz that somebody in the store makes. I bought the first one. I guess if you
Wherever Cubbyberry is.
Blakey is over there.
Yeah, the noise diet.
yeah. So he makes this ridiculous pedal. It should have caught on worldwide by now. Go figure. I don't know. I mean, he's got some sort of gated super fuzz. It sounds ridiculous. I don't really know. I mean, I tell you what. I played through a real Clyde McCoy wah-wah pedal. All these ones that say Clyde McCoy, I'm sorry, it's not the same ballgame. So, you're bringing up a very, very powerful fact. And the 5815s and the 8515s are slight modifications of 5708s, and they're getting 100% acceptance from all my artists. Is there a set of 5815s in here?
No, we have 8515s, not 50.
All right, so the 8515 is the same pickup without a cover. You should try it.
We do have 10, so Ted and I went back, 2 months ago to the factory?
Yeah.
We picked out 10 wood sets from McCarty's.
Yeah.
And we're making a McCarty rod of wood libraries with Brazilian rosewood fretboards. And those have the 5815s on them. They're going to be in early next month, mid next month. They'll start trickling in.
100% acceptance. 5708s had 80%, 85% acceptance.
Just close to 90.
Maybe 90% acceptance. So you've got your finger on the button, and you sound like you have a very sophisticated view. Let me give you another story. That guitar that's mine has been in the shop 15 times because I was trying to tweak it into position where it was competitive with the other one that I have, and I finally got it right. I finally figured out what was wrong with it. Really good instruments are in high-level repair shops all the time. Don't think that Eric Johnson doesn't have his stuff, or David Grissom doesn't have his stuff in Ed Reynolds' shop all the time. Carlos Santana is sending his guitars back to us constantly for updates. It's just, it needs to go back to be looked at. If I lived in this town as a repairman, I would be having you bring them in. Let's discuss what you're experiencing that's positive. Let's discuss what is not positive. It might be more of an acoustic problem than an electric problem, but I don't really know. No matter what mic you put on Barbra Streisand, she's not going to sound like Paul Rogers. That ain't going to happen. And you're in love with these microphones, and I'm saying maybe the singer needs to be adjusted. So,
I'm one of the people, I just
I-
love
I-
your stuff.
I
I
actually
keep playing
don't-
it. I believe you're gonna make the next thing that will blow my mind, and I gotta keep playing through the different line.
okay, fair
That's how
enough,
it
but I don't, when you started, you scared me a little bit because you said I'm not happy. Well, I think you actually are happy and very picky. What's wrong with that? That's powerful. That's what you should all be. The whole room should be that way. He should be, in everybody else's mind, he should be wrong because you found something you like better, right? It's complicated. I'm almost ashamed of how many thousands of varieties of things we've done over the years because it's hard to track. But I'm proud of it at the same time because people have almost one-offs all the time. And if I hadn't done it, we wouldn't have survived, and Jenna wouldn't have a job. I mean, you know, we go through this. You're bringing up the big white elephant in the room. It's true. This is a very fickle market.